Hello, beautiful people. I hope that wherever you are in the world, that you are doing well and that you are taking care of yourselves. I'm Chris Danker, and this is Let the Adventure Begin. Let the Adventure Begin with Chris Danker podcast. Welcome to episode 142. I'm calling this one And Yet. I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately, and a lot of it I can really trace back to a book that I'm reading right now, and it's called Women Rowing North, Navigating Life's Currents and Flourishing as We Age, and it's by Mary Pfeiffer. And the New York Times described it as both practical and inspiring, and that just short review of 4 words just completely hit the nail on the head with this book. And I'm going to talk about it more in a later episode, but that's really where I'm coming from in this episode of the idea of And Yet. A lot of us, myself included, have a habit of saying, well, I want to do this, but... and we give a reason why we can't or why we don't want to, making an excuse, but allows us to make an excuse. It kind of gets us out of doing what we know that we should do. But when we rephrase it and we say, and yet, it gives what we're saying a whole different perspective, a different way of looking at things. This time of the year in the education world, and especially as a middle school counselor, I am learning some things. This is the first year that I'm back into school counseling after being back in the classroom for 5 years. And this is my first year as a middle school counselor. I was an elementary counselor for 7 years. And so when this week the last few days especially, have just been really interesting in the fact that colleagues seem to be more stressed, a little more overwhelmed, just maybe a little more whiny and complaining. And as a classroom teacher, I didn't experience that. You know, when you're a classroom teacher, you have your own little world that you are in charge of, which is fabulous. And you have your students that you are working with, and you're just in your own bubble. As an as a middle school counselor, you're privy to more of the adults in your building. We have team meetings once a week, and so we meet with all of our staff in teams. So our 6th grade team, 7th, 8th, and then our exploratory teachers all meet once a week. And, and we have an agenda that we follow from one week to the next. And I just had noticed in the last 2 team meetings in particular that the tone for some people has been a little different. Like I said, a little more stressed, a little more overwhelmed. And I get it. We're also in the throes of standardized testing, and there's a lot going on with that. And then just all of the things that occur in the last few weeks of the school year. So I get it, but I'm seeing it in a different lens this time around. And I said to my counterpart, I'm very lucky that I am in a building where there are 2 counselors, and our other counselor, Amy, she has been a counselor, I believe, for 14 years. And so she knows. And I said, my question was, what is going on? And she goes, it's like this every year. And I'm like, what? It's because I had been thinking about my bubble as a classroom teacher. And so seeing that has just provided me a different perspective in giving more grace and more understanding and letting things roll off, because I do know what it's like to have that stress as a classroom teacher. And yet it's also something that I struggle with because I'm normally a very positive person. And so it is different for me to take a step back and very much try to look at the world from other people's lenses. In other words, we can't judge another person ever. And we certainly can't when we've never walked in their shoes. And none of us have ever walked in another person's shoes. So what I'm saying here is that none of us should be judging any other person. That's not our right. We have enough of our own business to take care of. And yet, there are many times when we do so. And so I'm really trying hard to take but out of my vocabulary and insert and yet instead. Because as I said in reading Mary Pfeiffer's book, it has really made me think about the fact that each day is truly a gift. And I am a person who journals every morning. I am a huge follower of Julia Cameron's book, The Artist Way. And in that book, she talks about how the first thing that we should do every morning is just write for 3 pages, just anything that comes to mind. And I have started getting into a rhythm where I write my mantra that I have been developing and working on, and I pretty much have it down, and I'll share that with you at a different time. And I also write out my prayer for the day. And the first thing, as a progressive Christian, and I belong to a very inclusive church, that the first thing that I write is that I am thankful for the day. I'm thankful that I woke up and that I've been given the opportunity to serve others in whatever capacity is put in my path. And my main, obviously, purpose is serving in the capacity of being in a school, and also when I'm not at school, being a great partner to my husband and to my family members that I either text or talk to on the phone or see on a regular basis, being a good listener when I'm not focused on how I'm going to respond, but truly listening. Those are all very important to me, but it's having that idea of, when I get to the end of the day, do I have any regrets? And I know that a lot of us, we'll probably have regrets on how we handle certain things throughout the day, of course. And yet, thinking about that none of us are promised tomorrow. And are we happy with the way that our day went? And like I said, not every day is rainbows and unicorns. I get that. And yet I want all of us to think more reflectively throughout the day, saying, wow, if this was my last day on earth, if this was it, if I knew that this was the end of it for me, how would I respond to my day? How would I be maybe proactive in my day? What would I change about it? And maybe, having that mindset or a mind shift is something that we all need. And like I said, this is coming from a place of being more reflective at this time of the year in the school setting as we finish out the last few weeks. It's reading Mary Pfeiffer's book that has just really started to get me to think about how I approach each day and not to take it for granted. It doesn't mean that I'm not planning for things in the future. In fact, my husband and I just booked a bed and breakfast for a trip we plan to take to Minnesota in October. However, it's making sure that we're staying in the present moment as much as we possibly can. And so it's taking but I can do that tomorrow, taking the but out and saying, and yet I want to be able to do this if I'm given the opportunity to have it tomorrow. So just some thoughts to think about this week. I hope you're having a fantastic week. And until next week, I hope you let your adventure begin. Peace.